Hello, fellow female activists. Cathy here, your fellow activist and wellness coach. And we are going to talk today. Well, actually, I will be moving into our mental fitness subcategory again, but this time it's actually going to be a testimonial, and it's my testimony about why mental fitness is so important and how it can really make a big difference right now in your life. So, as we do, we always start these wellness playlist videos with what we call our positive quotient repetitions, PQ reps for short. And I can attest to the fact that they really do work. So, with that said, if you're new, hi, hello, go ahead, subscribe and like the video, and get ready for what we call again our positive quotient repetitions, or PQ reps. So, if you feel safe, go ahead and close your eyes. I will do so. You can be standing, sitting, laying down. All that I request is that you have a quiet space to be in, okay, so that nothing is bothering you. So, we're going to go ahead, get groovy. Close your eyes again if you wish. And assuming that you feel safe and you're in a quiet space, what I want you to do, okay, is this one is all about listening to your breath. So we're going to literally just listen to our breath. We're not changing it, okay? We're not changing the rhythm, anything about it. We're just going to notice our breath, okay? You can be breathing through your mouth if you wish, but obviously your natural breathing pattern, however that goes. So in your nose and out, whether your nose or your mouth, but sink into that breathing and just notice it. And a few more instructions will be coming, but settle into your breath. Now that you've felt how your breath naturally feels, now what I want you to do is continue to listen to your breath, okay? And every time you breathe, go ahead and in your head, say the word out loud: breath, breath, breath. Now, go ahead and bring your hand to your heart. Really actually feel your heartbeat. Your breath has a different rhythm. Your heartbeat has its own rhythm. And to feel them working independently tells you that you are, in fact, alive. When you're ready, feel free to blink open your eyes if they're closed and come back. Not too often do we really consider what it sounds like or feels like, really, correct? We can sometimes, like me, if you have tinnitus, unfortunately, and I have a lot of different ear issues, I can actually hear my heartbeat sometimes. Not that I want necessarily to hear it, but I can actually hear it. And I bring that to your attention because when we become so aware of our bodily functions, i.e., how our body works, we are now in our body. This can oftentimes go whoosh, okay? It doesn't stay with the rest of our body, it's attached to, unfortunately. When we take the moment, the PQ rep moment, to really sink in back to our bodies, this connects with the rest of us, and that's important. So today, again, this is a wellness playlist video. Okay, so you'll find it in the wellness playlist, and it's going to be with the subcategory under mental fitness. So, what's mental fitness? Very quickly, it's your ability, okay, to see literally the gift and opportunity in any situation and to do so with a positive mindset. That's not easy right now in our present, if you're in the States, especially in our present situation. So, what I wanted to do today is actually share my own testimony with using positive quotient repetitions, specifically going through what it's like to use them when you are way high on the anxiety meter. So I was diagnosed with anxiety disorder, general anxiety disorder back in 2001. And I guess it's kind of unusual to be diagnosed with general anxiety disorder, or at least I've been told that. And so I had actually all my life been quite what I call now hypervigilant through my saboteur assessment that I took with my mental fitness program. But all my life I had been rather on the edge, right? Like always a nervous type person. And I actually know when I can recall my first anxiety episode. And it actually happened when I was like barely, in the 8th grade. I didn't know what it was, okay, but I did have what one would consider a episode. And interesting enough, I got through it without knowing what it was, but it was not, it was a very unsettling feeling, right? And I was, I guess, not in so much of a situation where I felt so threatened that it didn't take me overboard, but it was not fun, right? Fast forward many years, and I get diagnosed in 2001, okay? And then, and that was because, unfortunately, I had two severe anxiety episodes back to back within a week, and they landed me both in the ER. And so, fast forwarding, keep fast forwarding. In 2012, I had a doozy of you know, anxiety episode. Now, it didn't put me in the ER, thank goodness. So, knock on wood somewhere, right there. And so I got through it, but I remember very distinctly being in my bedroom on the floor, crumpled up in the fetal position. And I whispered out loud to myself, like talking to myself. And we're all familiar with that. And I had been, I was done with thank goodness. I wasn't feeling great. I was feeling quite awful after that episode. And very clearly, weakly, but very clearly and distinctly, I told myself, you will do everything you can to not let this happen ever again. Now, with those words, took me on my journey how I was going to get better, right? Like how I was going to fix myself, so to speak. And so that was the last, what I would call severe episode for a very long time. And then I had another mini one. It wasn't really anything too scary, but it wasn't fun, right? But it wasn't as bad as the one in 2012. And I was able to talk myself down from it. So in 2020, I believe. Would that be any surprise in 2020, anyone having it might have been 2021, but anyway, we all know what was happening in that time frame. But I still felt like I was okay, right? Like it wasn't something that took me out. In fact, it was very early morning and I was supposed to go for a run, and that's what was making me nervous. And so, based on me telling myself that I was going to be okay, I was able to talk myself down and I did go running. So now, fast forward, I have learned about Positive Intelligence, the wonderful company, and their foundational mental fitness program, and back in 2023, I believe. Yeah, 2023. So it's been 2 years that I've been using um, what we call positive quotient repetitions. That same year, actually, meant that I took on a lot more responsibility as a caretaker for my aunt, my Thea. And we did not know that. Well, we kind of guessed, we knew that there was something going on, but basically, she was probably already dealing with what ended up being advanced dementia or what became Alzheimer's. And we had been helping her. I mean, I've helped her whole life, but it really started in as a consecutive amount of caretaking, as far back as like 2011. It became very much 24/7 for me in 2023. So you can understand that my anxiety level started to creep up. Thank goodness I had positive intelligence, the positive quotient repetitions that I was now incorporating into my life. And keep in mind, I'm a yoga instructor. I meditate. I have tools. I've always used tools, and I went to therapy back in 2001. Anyone who is wondering or thinking about going to therapy, go to therapy. Even if you don't think you need it, go to therapy. I went for like 2.5 years, actually. Once I was diagnosed, I definitely saw that there was a need. Again, in my Latina culture, there's nothing supposed to be going on over, it's supposed to be thinking about what's wrong with me. You're supposed to say, I'm going to push through it. That wasn't how my brain was going to work. I was like, there is something going on, and me just trying to pretend that there's nothing going on is not going to help. So I had gone through therapy. I had gone through again, tools, learning tools all this time. So, uh, you know, being a caretaker, and everyone out there who knows what I'm talking about, God bless you. Now, again, I was a caretaker, not a caregiver. There's a difference. Caregivers usually are those who are actually, literally helping someone eat, sleep, bathe themselves, that type of stuff. I was not a caregiver for my Thea. She was literally physically, there was not much wrong with her. It was all up here, unfortunately. So I was a caretaker for her, meaning that I took care of like her daily, trips to the store, or, helped her, with this, that, and whatever. Helping her get her, like all her legal stuff taken, so like day-to-day activities that otherwise confused her, I helped her with. So as her caretaker, though, I ended up becoming her full-time caretaker. Not fun. And I'll be honest, right? And that happened in November, so during the Thanksgiving holiday time. And so my three sisters and I took on a lot of responsibilities, and all of us were, spending time at my Thea's house. And I and my other sister, we were both taking on probably a little bit more, simply just by virtue of our schedules, right? We had the flexibility to do so. So they all knew that I was already someone with, a high anxiety touch point, so to speak. And they were very, very much worried more about me, right? Versus even just taking care of our Thea. And so, unfortunately, even though I was already going, I was already using, uh, you know, mental fitness and using PQ, all right, PQ repetitions, even that still, okay, was, and I'll just be honest, right? Like I hadn't had an right? I hadn't had what I would consider even a close to an episode, of anxiety episode, since perhaps 2021. And again, that one wasn't, it didn't fledge itself into a full-fledged episode. Um, Not since 2012 had I had something like a full-on episode. And based on all the all the responsibilities that I took on in December, early December, I December 2023, I ended up having a full-blown episode, and it was not cool. It was with my Thea, and I was actually driving her back to her house, and I knew better. Like I could tell that something was going on when I was still at my sister's house with my Thea, but I'm like, no, if I just get her back to her house, I'll just rest the rest of the day. That's not what happened. So I endangered her and myself by driving. Now, thank goodness we made it to her house. I don't know how, but we did with the grace of God. So I was having literally, the symptoms of a episode as I drove, got to her house, literally for the most part, barely made it into the house. And then I crumbled onto the air mattress that I was using because of her very old-fashioned and helpful house. And I literally was like on my hands and knees because now I was in a full-fledged episode. I should have said trigger warning earlier. I'll put that in the disclaimer, or I put that disclaimer in the description. But while in the throes of that episode, which were just as bad, probably even maybe worse than the 2012 one because I came close to vomiting in this one in December 2023. And even though that was going on, because I knew about my PQ practice, because I had been practicing my positive quotient repetitions, I used the tactical, what I was doing earlier with you, when I was thinking about my breath. Again, when we're in a episode, right, we're trying everything to calm our brain. Our brain is going too fast, right? And we're doing all this other crap. So what I did, I was like, okay, there's other PQ reps and they're called tactical. So I was rubbing my fingers together. I was using the different PQ techniques to get myself finally into a calmer state. And as well as I was using my breathing techniques, I was using anything that I had learned previously to get me through this moment. And once I was finally, in a situation where I could get help, I called my sisters and blah, blah, blah. My one sister came to take my place at my Thea's house. And then my other sister took me back to that other sister's apartment so that I could rest. And interesting enough, even on the drive back to the apartment, I was already feeling more stable. Why? Because I was using the PQ reps. I kept using my tactical PQ reps. I kept using all the different methods of the PQ repping to get me not only just to calm down, but to take my nervous system slowly down. Okay. So much so that by the time I was at the apartment, okay, my sister made sure that she didn't leave until she knew I was okay. I told her, yes, I'm much better. And taking the time to, again, continually use the PQ reps. The whole time I was in the truck when she on our way to my sister's apartment, once I got into the apartment, sat on the couch, laid on the couch, I could tell that I was already recovering. The next morning, okay, because of PQ reps, because of my new mental fitness toughness. Now, you would probably say, well, you had an episode. How can you say that you're tough, that you have mental fitness? Because the next morning, I was able to function as if I had not had that episode. Back in 2012, when I had that doozy of an episode, I was out of it for 2 days, meaning, as everyone knows here, what you feel like immediately after and then the days after, you are like if you were hungover, right? You have brain fog, you feel still lightheaded, all these other manifestations, right, of what came out. It's almost like the energy still has not gotten all out, right? So for 2 days back in 2012, after that original episode that I had, I didn't go to work the next day. And then the following day when I did go to work, I didn't even still have the energy to go move my body. I work out. I've worked out every day, for most of my life, right? I'm always moving my body on the daily. In 2012, I did not have the energy after that original episode to do anything for 2 days. The next day after the episode that happened in December 2023, not only was I able, now I took it easy. Okay. I didn't like go and take a, 5 mile run, but I was able to actually, I remember if I'm not mistaken, I, chose a easier yoga flow, I moved my body though, and I felt refreshed. I'm going to repeat that. I felt refreshed. Again, I was able to sleep, which was phenomenal. But again, when I woke up, I did not feel like I had had an anxiety episode the night before. I felt refreshed. And that right there solidified my belief in positive intelligence's mental fitness program. I was like, holy moly. I had a episode that lasted, unfortunately, like a good, what, it could have been easily an hour. And it was a horrible hour, let me tell you. Half of that was driving, right? Which was very dangerous. And then thereafter in my Thea's house. But once I was able to get the energy out of me, right? And from the time that my sisters again put me in the truck and then took me to my sister's apartment, I slowly but surely started to notch down that anxiety. The energy was leaving my body naturally, but efficiently, so much so that I slept pretty soundly considering everything that had happened. And then the next morning, like I said, I felt normal. That was humongous for me. Knowing that one, I made it past another not so fun moment when it came to having an episode, but I did so and I came out of it quicker and none the worse for it in 24 hours. That was a big deal. Why? Because my mind was able to recover instead of in 72 hours, 48 hours, right? 48 hours to, it only took me overnight. So imagine what that did for my confidence. Imagine what that did for my self-awareness. Imagine how powerful. I was empowered. I was like, yes, I had an episode and I hadn't really had something like that since 2012. But guess how fast I came out of it. So please understand that when you have the right tools, anything is possible. Mental fitness, again, the ability to see that there's an opportunity and a gift and do so with a positive mindset in any situation, that's humongous. And right now, we need that so much. We need to know that we are going to move through this very scary moment, this heralding moment in history, because we are in history. We are going to be in the history books 30, 100 years from now, hopefully at the end saying, yes, we ended fascism in the United States and we're better for it, right? But I know that because of mental fitness, I can come out of any situation on the other side and know that I'm stronger for it. Too often, I think that it's spoken in it is unspoken that people with any type of mental health issues are weak and that, we just can't cope. And that is so not true. Anybody who has been given any type of diagnosis about mental health absolutely knows that our strength actually, is knowing that we can go through something despite what's going on in our heads. I don't look as being diagnosed as something that's being done to me. It is just something that is part of me, but it doesn't define me, right? Yes, I was diagnosed back in 2001, but up until then, I didn't know what all that jittery stuff was. I didn't know why I would feel lightheaded when I got mad and blah, blah, blah. But yet I still moved through it, right? So I'm no different than I was before the date of whenever I was diagnosed, nor am I any different than the day after I was diagnosed. I am who I am, and I just happen to have a higher amount of anxiety than other people, and that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with me. I have tools that help me adapt in any situation. And it doesn't take someone having some type of diagnosis to benefit from mental fitness training. In fact, I would suggest that the sooner you can have me as your facilitator and take your organization or take your leadership team or take you individually through the mental fitness program, you will understand that you have all the tools inside of you, right? I will just give you these tools in a way that make it very user-friendly in the form of an app, okay, that you literally will use daily for up to 8 weeks. And if you so choose, they're on after like I do. But all I can say is, regardless of how you look at it, you will have gained the ability, the empowerment to know, again, that your mental fitness is starting to grow. And your mental fitness is what's, again, going to determine how you see each situation and how you move through it. You will never grow the way you should unless you actually move through whatever you're scared of, whatever you hesitate about, right? The fastest way to curing whatever fear you have is to move through it. And that's really hard to do. But when you, again, have mental fitness, when your mental fitness is strong, you do so with the intention and the knowledge of, once I move through this, I am empowered even more. So let it be, again, a sign of strength when you choose to face what you fear, because really, our brains at its basic level, all it wants is to keep us alive. And so when we go outside of our comfort zone, anything can trigger our brain to think, no, 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 we must bring her back. And when you have mental fitness, when you have the empowerment that mental fitness brings, you can move through most decisions, most fearful situations, knowing I'm coming out of this on the other side, and I am going to be better for it one way or another, because I can see that there is a gift and opportunity in any situation. So with that, if you want to learn more about the mental fitness program from Positive Intelligence and have me as your facilitator, please go ahead and send me an email. My information's below. But also go ahead and comment, ask me any questions you want, and I'll be happy to answer them. I can only honestly tell you that, again, do I expect to have, possibly another episode? Yeah, I'm not perfect. And there's a lot going on. But I also know that and that's a big if I do succumb to another episode, I will come out of it. And I will do so because the mental fitness I have will help me recover faster. Either way, I win. Right? So, with that, thank you so much. And again, whatever you're going through, you know that you can count on others to include me to help you through it, because that way, when you get to the other side, you can say, yeah, I'm ready to help someone else get to the other side as well. All right. So again, look forward to getting any questions and hopefully even talking to you on Zoom to talk about how I can help your organization. With that, we will talk to you soon. Take care, take charge. God bless.